This is Snake, Rattle, and Roll, an isometric platform game made for the NES in 1990. It was developed at Rare by a team of just 3 people. That's not really strange, but this is. Welcome to Games, the show about game history, game development, and gamer culture. Today I want to share a game that I played a lot when I was a little kid. It's called Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Although Rare is more well known for games like Battletoads and Banjo-Kazooie, I think this game deserves a second look. Let's set the scene. It was the end of the 80s, and Rare had just completed a port of Marble Madness for the NES. 2 developers, Tim Stamper and Mark Betteridge, came up with a new game that took an isometric 3D style similar to Marble Madness, but had levels that could scroll horizontally as well as vertically. Snake, Rattle, and Roll was born. This is a competitive co-op game with simultaneous multiplayer. This meant that you didn't have to take turns playing through the game like you would with a game like Super Mario Bros. It also meant that if you had a sibling who was much more competitive than you, things probably got pretty intense. Snake, Rattle, and Roll is a really weird game, but once you know the plot, it's still a really weird game. Let's read from the manual. Snake, Rattle, and Roll takes you into the fun-filled world of 2 of the hippest snakes around, Rattle and Roll. You must work your way through 11 levels of wacky landscapes and wild enemies. In each level, you need to consume enough nibbly-pibblies to activate the scale that will open the door to the next area. Good luck! What the hell is a nibbly-pibbly? The colorful, spherical beings? So, you're essentially eating enough of the locals until you're heavy enough to move to the next location where you can eat more of them. That's pretty dark. And it's not like you're only eating a few of these things. I mean, the whole premise behind this game is a race to eat as many nibbly-pibblies as you can to get heavy enough to move on. Now, the balls start out just rolling around, but quickly develop springs and legs and eventually even sprout wings. The nibbly-pibblies even throw out decoy bombs to blow you up. I don't think they want to be eaten. But nothing can stop my bloodlust. I'm on a mission to the top of the mountain. Let's talk about enemies. There's all kinds of enemies in this game. The foot? No, not that one. The other kind. The kind you got on your leg? But you know, off. There's sharks, toilet seats, exploding crystals, a bouncing tire, I think, and mushrooms. Some of these things make sense because I'm playing a snake. Others, not so much. I still don't know what that black puck tire thing is. Snake, Rattle, and Roll has pretty standard collectibles. You got 1-ups, invincibility, time extenders, speed boosts, and this fucking thing that makes the controls reverse, and I swear to God, I'm going to punch someone in the mouth. Ugh! But what's the end goal of all this mayhem? What's the point of navigating this isometric labyrinth mountain full of Technicolor nightmare fuel? Here, let me show you. Oh, and spoiler alert, you know, if you're worried about that sort of thing. After climbing and struggling, licking, jumping, and eating your way to the top of 11 mountainous levels, you're on the moon. And there's another foot. I'm gonna lick it. Yeah, I'm gonna lick it to death. And now I'm going into space. Sure. Hippity hip, hippity hop. Rattle and Roll are at the top Already working on that sequel? Snakes in Space? Can't wait to play it! Sadly, this sequel was never made. But they did make Sneaky Snakes on the Game Boy. I've never played it, but I hear it's a side-scrolling game that borrows a lot of the same mechanics from Snake, Rattle, and Roll, but is much less fun. Hooray! Snake, Rattle, and Roll received mostly positive reviews upon release. Game critics were impressed with the detailed faux 3D perspective and the responsive controls. Nintendo Power said that the game defied description. I'd say that's about right. In 1993, the game was ported to the Sega Mega Drive in Europe, but that port would never make it stateside. There were some changes between the two versions, but I think I'll save those for a future video. In spite of the bizarre premise of this title, Snake, Rattle, and Roll remains a pretty solid game. The controls are surprisingly good considering being locked down to a D-pad, and visually, this game still looks alright. I mean, for an NES title, not bad. Looking back, it's surprising that Rare never came back to Snake, Rattle, and Roll. I think a game like this, with a modern coat of paint, could be good as a phone or tablet game. I doubt that would ever happen though. I don't know. Maybe some independent group could come up with a spiritual successor? But that seems pretty far-fetched. Full disclosure, this game is really hard. I mean, really hard. My buddy Adam and I sat down to record footage for this episode, and we couldn't get past the 4th level. So we had to resort to using Game Genie codes for infinite lives. And even then, we still couldn't get past the 4th level, because there's a freaking gauntlet you have to make it through at the end. You have to get your nibbly pibblies over here, and then jump down this waterfall, over this spike, through these blades, over these platforms, and then not get hit by these anvils. It's freaking ridiculous. It's like the Temple of the Silver Monkey or something. Also, we died a lot. I mean, a lot. This is the level of challenge that was normal back then. I mean, you might have only had a few games anyway, and you needed them to last, so either the game was long, or it was hard. So, even though there are only 11 levels, and they aren't that long, Snake, Rattle, and Roll is not a walk in the park. So just a warning, I'm rating this game as Nintendo hard. Player beware, there be challenges here. Thanks for watching the first episode of Games. I hope you liked it. I had a lot of fun doing the research and putting this together, and I want to make more of these. Please let me know if you want to see more by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Also, if you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see in the future, just write a comment below. The next episode is part 1 of a 3-part series called Nintendo Before Nintendo Made the Nintendo. You should check it out. You might learn something new about the Kyoto company that could.